All right, so now it's time to do our review for our test. I'm going to work the odds. That will leave you with the evens, okay? When you take your test, you really need to know your material. You need to work the entire review. I'm going to work the odds, but you need to go back and work your odds. You might want to print your review sheet twice so you can work them all. That way, when you take your test, you're not going to spend a whole lot of time using your review, looking at your review, going, oh, if you spend too much time looking at your review, you may not finish your test. And anything you do not finish is going to be wrong. Okay? But let's make sure that you understand everything. That way you'll have time to ask questions after watching the review. It says determine the perimeter for each shape. Okay, so back when you were in geometry, we had to find perimeter. We're going to add all the sides together. So we're going to set this up. And we're going to add these together. We're going to say 2x squared minus 4 plus 3x squared plus 12x minus 1. And then we're going to add the third side. X squared minus 7x plus 9. So, to find the perimeter, we're going to add all three sides together. We're going to combine like terms. Here's 2x squared. Here's a positive 3x squared. Here's a positive 1x squared. 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1 is 6. That's going to give me 6x squared. Okay? This does not have an x, but look, here we have a positive 12x. We have a negative 7x. 12 minus 7 is 5, so we're going to end up with a positive 5x. Then we're going to combine our regular numbers, our constants. I have a negative 4. I have a negative 1. I have a positive 9. Negative 4 minus 1 is a negative 5. A negative 5 plus 9 is going to be a positive 4. That's going to be a total of positive 4. There is your perimeter right there. Okay? All right, so problem number 3. Look at problem number 3. It says we need to find the area for number 2. Let's go back and look at number 2, see what number 2 was. Turns out that number two is a rectangle. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Base times height, length times width. So we're going to have to multiply these two together. All right, so let's go ahead and give ourselves some room. We're going to multiply 2x plus 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 2. 2x plus 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 2. Now you can set this up using the box method. I'm going to go ahead and do distributive property. Okay? So let me bump this just a little bit so we can see this. We're going to do distributive property. We're going to go 2x times x squared. So you're going to get a 2x times x squared will leave us with x to the third. 2 times negative 4 is a negative 8. X times x will give us x squared. Take it to the back. 2 times 2 is 4. Uh-oh. 2 times 2 is 4. And there's your x. And then we're going to go use the second term. We got to use the 3. And we're going to say 3 times x squared. 3 times x squared is 3x squared. We're going to stack our like terms so it's easier to combine like terms in just a second. We're going to say 3 times negative 4. 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12. X. and then we're going to go 3 times 2 is a positive 6. We're going to draw a line, and we're going to combine like terms vertically. I don't have anything to put with my 2x to the third, so it stays 2x to the third. I have a negative 8 and a positive 3. That's going to leave me with a negative 5x squared. I have a positive 4 and a negative 12. That's going to leave me with a negative 8x. And then I just have nothing to go with my 6, so it stays a positive 6. There is the area of our rectangle. We have multiplied a binomial times a trinomial. Okay, let's keep going. Number 5. It says they're going to ask us to find g plus h, and we're going to have to evaluate at the number 8, or negative 8, excuse me. So what they're asking you to do is you're going to take your g function, get an answer, take your h function, get an answer, and add those together. So in our g, we're going to go g of negative 8, because they're telling you to substitute in a negative 8, equals 2n squared plus 1. So they're asking you to take the negative 8 and put it where the n is. So they're saying 2 times negative 8 squared plus 1. Negative 8 times negative 8 is a positive 64. You're going to say 2 times 64 is 128. Plus 1 is 129. This is my G answer, okay? We're going to come over here, and now we need to find our H value, okay? So the H says, we're going to say H of negative 8, okay, equals 2 times somebody minus 2. We said that whenever we see the variable n, we were going to substitute in a negative 8. So we're going to put in a negative 8 right there. 2 times negative 8 is a negative 16 minus 2. Negative 16 minus 2 is a negative 18. That is our H function value. What are they asking us to do? They're going to take your G answer, which is 129, and they're asking you to add it to your H function value, which is a negative 18. 129 minus 18 is going to leave us with 111 is our final answer. Okay? Got it? Moving on to number 7. Same thing, except now instead of adding at a number, we're going to have a variable expression. Going to take your H answer, add it to your G answer. We're going to say H of x minus 1, that's what we're substituting in, equals negative 4x plus 1. Negative 4 times somebody plus 1. We said that we were going to put this expression right here. We're going to say x minus 1. We distribute. We're going to say negative 4 times x is a negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4 plus 1. When you combine your like terms, you'll end up with negative 4x plus 5. That is the number I get, or the expression I get for my H value. So as far as my G value goes, we're going to say G of x minus 1. We're going to evaluate it for x minus 1. and that equals 4 minus x. So we're going to say 4 minus somebody. Who do we put inside the parentheses? Inside the parentheses, we're going to put x minus 1. That'll give us a 4. We distribute the negative. A negative times the x is going to be a negative x. We're going to distribute it to the backside, and we're going to say a negative times a negative is a positive. That's going to give us a 1. When we combine like terms, 4 plus 1 is 5, so I'm going to get 5 minus x. This is my G answer. So we're supposed to add these together. We're supposed to go negative 4x plus 5 plus 5 minus x. We combine our like terms. I have a negative 4x. There's an invisible little 1 right there. So negative 4 and negative 1 is going to be a negative 5x. 5 plus 5 is 10. There's our answer. There's your answer for number 7. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 is multiplication. So we're going to evaluate for the value of x minus 2. So over here, we're going to say f of x minus 2 equals 2x minus 4. 2 times somebody minus 4. We're going to have to substitute in the x minus 2. We distribute. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4. Minus 4. We combine our like terms, and we get 2x minus 8. That is what? That is your f value. Now we evaluate for our g. So we're going to take the g function right here, and we're going to say g of x minus 2 equals 3 times somebody plus 3. What are we going to substitute in? We're going to substitute in the x minus 2. We distribute. 3 times x is a 3x. 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6. Plus 3. We combine like terms, and I'm going to get 3x, negative 6 plus 3 is a negative 3. This is our g. That's what we get when we evaluate for the g function. But what does it say to do? What did we say we were going to do here? It said that we were going to multiply our two answers, our two functions. So we're going to set it up, and we're going to say 2x minus 8 times 3x minus 3. We have to multiply those together. Let's move this a little bit so you can see it better. When we multiply, we're going to say 2 times 3 is 6. X times x is x squared. 2 times negative 3 is a negative 6. X. Negative 8 times 3 is a negative 24. X. And then we're going to say negative 8 times a negative 3. A negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times 3 is still 24. We're going to combine our like terms. And so we're going to end up with 6x squared. Negative 6 and negative 24 is going to give us a negative 30x plus 24. There's our answer for number 9. 6x squared minus 30x plus 24. Okay? Let's go to number 11. All right, so continue on with number 11. Look at this. That is not multiplication. This open, it's not a closed, but this open little circle here means we're going to compose these functions. Now, remember what we said we talked about in class a little bit. When we do these compositions, we're going to take this -1 value and we're going to work backwards. We're going to substitute it into our g function, evaluate it for the g function for -1. Okay? So we have our g, and we're going to evaluate it at -1 equals x squared minus 5. This means somebody squared minus 5. And we agreed that we were going to substitute in -1. -1 squared is a +1. Minus 5, 1 minus 5 is going to give us a -4. That is our g. We're going to take our g answer, take this number, and we're going to evaluate it. We're going to substitute into the f function. Okay? So our f function, we're going to evaluate it at -4. We're going to say f of -4 equals 2x plus 4. We're going to say 2 times somebody plus 4. Who are we going to substitute in? We're going to substitute in the -4 value. And 2 times -4 is a -8 plus 4. -8 plus 4 is going to leave us with a -4 as our final answer. Remember, when you have this open circle, it's not multiplication, it's a composition, and we're going to work backwards. We're going to work right to left. Okay? Let's go to number 13. Okay, look at number 13. We still have another open circle. It's another composition. Okay? Remember now, we're going to take the -2t and we're going to evaluate it for the h function first. We're going to substitute in there. So what do we have? We have, into our h problem, we have h of -2t equals 3t squared plus 3. This means 3 times somebody squared plus 3. We said we were going to evaluate for -2t, so we're going to substitute in -2t. Be careful, you need to do your exponent first. And the exponent goes to the -2 and to the t. So this is going to be 3 times, we haven't used it yet, we're going to square this. Square the -2. -2 times -2 is a +4. You have to square the t. T times t will give you t squared plus 3. You've got to do your order of operations. You've got to do your exponent first. Now we multiply. 3 times 4 is going to give us 12t squared plus 3. This is the result. This is my h answer. I have to take this and we're going to evaluate it for the g function. We're going to substitute it into our g function. So we go to the g problem and we're going to say g of 12t squared plus 3. Because that's what we're going to substitute in, equals 2t minus 4. This means 2 times somebody minus 4. Who are we going to substitute in? 12t squared plus 3. We're going to distribute. We have to distribute here. So we say 2 times 12 is 24t squared. Then you distribute and you say 2 times 3. 2 times a +3 is 6 minus 4. Give us a little room. We're going to combine like terms and we're going to say 24 t squared. 6 minus 4 is a positive 2. This would be our final answer. Okay? Let's keep going. Let's find another odd problem. Okay, so we're going to find the inverse of each function. Remember, when we find the inverses, we ask you to switch places with the x and the y, right? All right, so here we go. First thing I want you to do is I want you to treat this as a y. And then we're going to swap. We're going to swap places with the x and the y. So this is going to be x. Let's come over here. We're going to say x equals y over 4 minus 3. Okay? Step 1 is we switch places with the x and the y. Step 2, we need to get y by itself. So we're going to move the 3 to the other side. We want to move the 3 so we can get the y by itself. So we're going to go plus 3 plus 3. X plus 3 equals y over 4. Okay? You don't have to do this, but I do it. I recommend it because sometimes we have to graph. But I'm going to go over here and sneak this. I'm going to sneak a little 1 in here because that's going to help us if we have to graph. That will help us with our slope. Okay? But we need to get rid of the 4 at the bottom. So how do you get rid of the 4 at the bottom? You're going to multiply times 4. But whatever we do to this guy, we have to do to each term over here. So you're going to go times 4 times 4. 4 times 1x is going to give us 4x. 4 times 3 will give us 12. The 4's cancel. That's the whole reason we did it. And that will equal y. And that is the inverse. If you wanted to, we could write it like this. F to the negative 1 of x equals 4x plus 12. Both are accepted. Both are great answers. I would be happy if you got either one of those. Okay? That's 15. Let's go to 17. All right, so the directions say we're going to find the inverse of each function, graph the original function and its inverse. 3 steps, just like the worksheet we had in the past. You've got to find the inverse, graph the original, and then you're going to graph the inverse. 3 steps. All right, so first step 1, I'm going to try to go ahead and just graph the original problem. It's a little bit different order. If you want to rewrite this, let's go ahead and rewrite this like we'd like to if we wanted to graph it. We're going to treat this as a y, and we're going to say that y equals, we're going to put this first, we're going to say 1/2 x plus 1. That's slope-intercept form. That's what we'd like to see if we're going to graph. So we're going to start on the y-intercept at a 1. And the slope says to go up 1 over 2. So we're going to go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. If we ever wanted to, we could go down 1 to the left 2, down 1 to the left 2. We're going to get a line, we're going to connect the dots, and we're going to get something that looks kind of like that. That's a pretty good line for me. All right, so now we're going to find the inverse. Remember, when we find the inverse, we're going to switch with the x and the y. We're going to swap places. Okay? So here, this is going to turn into the x equals 1/2. This is going to be the y plus 1. We want to get y by itself. So what I'm going to do to get the y by itself, I'm going to move the 1 over here. We're going to say minus 1, minus 1. I get x minus 1 equals 1/2 y. How do you get rid of the half? How do you get rid of that 1/2 in front of the y? Hopefully, you were taught, we can do this, to multiply by the reciprocal. What is the reciprocal of 1 over 2? 2, or 2 over 1, right? So we're just going to multiply everybody times 2. Everybody, each term, times 2, times 2. What is 2 times x? 2x. What is 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. What happens here is the 2's cancel, and you're left with 1y or just y. Now we're going to rewrite this. We're going to put the y in front to make us comfortable. We're going to write this as y equals 2x minus 2. We're going to start graphing. This is our y-intercept. We're going to put a dot at negative 2. Okay? Our slope. Slope is always a fraction. We're going to put a 1 right there. So this is 2 over 1. So we're going to go up 2 to the right 1. Up 2 to the right 1. Up 2 to the right 1. Or we could go down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1. And then we'll connect those dots. Yeah, not as good as the other one. But that's the original. Here is the inverse. And here is a graph of the inverse. We've answered all 3 questions. All right? Let's go to number 19. Number 19. Not our favorite, but we can do this. Okay? They're going to ask us to prove if these are inverses of each other. We said the first thing when we did this, that we were going to put a y here, we're going to put a y here, and we were going to copy them over here. We said y equals negative x over 2, and then our next equation says y equals negative x plus 1 over 3. We said we were going to ask you to take all of this and substitute it in right there. Okay? Remember now, when you find that you're trying to prove inverses, you're going to hope you get it down all the way to where it's x on one side and x on the other. Anything else, we're going to put a no. But if that happens, we're going to say, yes, they are inverses. So we're going to do this. We're going to say the opposite of somebody divided by 2. So we're going to put all that in there. We're going to say there we go. Negative x plus 1 over 3. So we're going to distribute the negative, and we're going to say a negative times a negative is a positive. We're going to say a negative times a positive is a negative over 3. But we're divided. We're going to be divided by what number? Divided by 2. Now that's a weird situation, because what does this mean? This actually means, the fraction bar means to divide. So what that means is x minus 1 over 3 divided by 2, or 2 over 1. That's what this means. This piece divided by this. But the question is, have we ever been taught to divide fractions? And you're going to say, no, coach, we don't divide fractions. We multiply times the reciprocal. So you were taught in this situation is you're going to change this into looking like this. You're going to say x minus 1 over 3, but not division, but multiplication, and you're going to change that to 1 over 2. You're going to multiply times the reciprocal. X minus 1 times 1 is going to be x minus 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Do you think that's going to reduce down just to the single letter x? No. This is not good. This does not look good. But we're going to work the other half just to make sure. So the other half says the opposite of somebody plus 1 divided by 3. Who are we going to put in this parentheses? We're going to put this right here. We're going to substitute in the negative x over 2. Alright, so here we go. What's the opposite, or a negative times a negative, is a positive. So we're going to get a positive x over 2 plus 1 divided by 3. Now we have a similar situation. This fraction bar means to do what? It means to divide. But remember, we're not going to divide fractions because this is actually 3 over 1. 3 is the same as 3 over 1. But are we going to divide fractions? No, we're going to change it to multiplication. So we're going to say x over 2 plus 1, and we're going to multiply this times what? Times 1/3. That means we're going to distribute that 1/3. Even though it's a little backwards and we're not used to seeing this way, we're going to distribute. Let's bump this up. Maybe. Okay. All right, so let's look at what we got. 1/3 times x over 2. 1/3, so 1 times x is x. 3 times 2 is 6. 1/3 times 1 is 1/3. Is my x value going to cancel out to where I'm only left with x? Answer is no. This did not reduce for us. Excuse me. This did not reduce for us. This is not going to reduce for us. This is going to end up being a no. They are not inverses of each other. Okay, moving on. Number 21. All they're going to ask us to do is read the directions real quick. They're going to ask you to simplify each expression. That means we're going to ask you to perform an operations possibly and then combine like terms. What we see is we see a minus sign. We have to distribute the negative. So I've got this. I've got 6x squared plus 5x plus 4. But when I distribute the negative, a negative times 4 makes that a negative 4. A negative times a negative makes that a positive 2x squared. A negative times a negative makes that a positive 8x. Same thing here. We got to distribute the negative. A negative times 2x squared is a negative 2x squared. A negative times 8 is a negative 8. A negative times 4x is negative 4x. Let's combine like terms. Well, here is 6x squared. Here is a positive 2x squared. Here is a minus 2x squared. Well, what happens to a positive 2x squared and a minus 2x squared? They're going to cancel each other out. So we're only left with 6x squared. Here is 5x. That's a positive 5x. Here's a positive 8x, and here is a negative 4x. 5 plus 8 is 13. 13 minus 4 is a positive 9x. All we have left is our constants. I have a positive 4. Check this out. I have a positive 4, I have a minus 4, and I have a negative 8. The positive 4 and the minus 4 are going to cancel each other out, and all I'm left with is the negative 8. There's my final answer. Okay? Number 23, they're going to ask us to find the product. We've already done this, not that big of a deal. We're going to say that 8b times b is 8b squared. 8b times a negative 3 is negative 24b. 1 times b is a positive 1b. 1 times negative 3 is a negative 3. We're going to combine like terms in the middle, and we're going to get 8b squared. A negative 24 plus 1 leaves us with a negative 23b. minus 3. Last problem, number 25. They're going to ask us to multiply, okay? So we're going to distribute again, and we're going to say a times 2a squared is going to give us 2a to the third. A times 2a will give us 2a squared. A times negative 3 will give us a negative 3a. If we change it up, change colors, we're going to go underneath. Negative 1 times 2a squared is a negative 2a squared. Negative 1 times 2a is a negative 2a. Negative 1 times negative 3 is a positive 3. When you combine like terms, I have 2a to the third, a positive 2a squared, a negative 2a squared will cancel. A negative 3a minus 2a will give you a negative 5a and a plus 3. There's your final answer. Okay? So I've done all the odds. That leaves you the evens. But my suggestion to you is you work them all. Print your worksheet, only use this. Go back and look at this as a guide, but you need to be extra familiar. Do the odds, do the evens, do them all. If you get stuck, if you have a question, ask us. Now your test is on the Tuesday after Labor Day. So we're not going to see you until it's test day over the weekend. So you need to do your review sheet early so you have time to ask questions and then get your answers in time before the test. All right? So please, work the review. Don't wait till the last night. Don't wait till the last minute. Work it. Ask the questions if you have anything that you don't understand. All right. Good luck.